A Montgomery County Circuit Court jury of 6 women and 6 men began listening to testimony at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So far, 4 prosecution witnesses have testified, and at this stage it appears the hearing will be complex because of the number of people involved. Mrs. Allen arrived at today's hearing at about 9:05. She made no comment to reporters, and following a brief stop in the chambers of Judge Perry Hooper, who was hearing the case, she entered the courtroom to wait for a jury to be struck. State Treasurer Melba Till Allen faces a 2-count indictment that she allegedly deposited state funds in a Geneva, Alabama bank in exchange for credit and loans. Her attorneys have pleaded not guilty on all counts. A second indictment alleging that Mrs. Allen solicited or accepted the use of an airplane from a Florida financier who was involved in banking in Alabama has been continued and will be heard at a later date. In opening arguments today, District Attorney Jimmy Evans charged Mrs. Allen used her office for personal financial gain. Evans described the alleged wrongdoings as a corporate house of horrors. Billy Jordan, attorney for Mrs. Allen, told the jury the trial was one of persecution, not prosecution, and for political gain on the part of someone. Testimony today was brief. It was centered around an alleged plan to secure unauthorized bank loans. The trial is in recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Reporting from the Montgomery County Courthouse, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
We are in the midst this year of an election, and the field is wide open. Nobody knows what is going to actually happen. But we've got to have somebody, and this is a sad thing with us, but we got to have somebody to give us some directions in the political arena. And if we can't listen to our people who we have elected and who are trying to lead in these organizations, we're going to be found wanting. Because when this election is over, it's going to be a lot different to a lot of elections that we have seen in the state of Alabama.
We contend that the proper forum is the legislature of Alabama under Article 7 of the Constitution of the state of Alabama. We do not mean that at all that Mrs. Allen is above the law. We simply mean that the law, the fundamental law of the state of Alabama, the Constitution of the state of Alabama, provides that those questions should be resolved in the legislature under articles of impeachment and not in a circuit court at this time.
If Mrs. Allen is successful in this action today and impeachment proceedings were brought against her, if she were to be impeached, could she still be brought up on criminal charges?
Yes, we say that that would be possible if impeachment was successful in the legislature, assuming that those charges were true, and we don't assume that they are true. But she would be subject to criminal prosecution, but only after impeachment by the legislature. Norman, this is an unusual case. The question has arisen in the case of judges in the state of Alabama, and there are cases that hold that the legislature under the impeachment articles is the proper forum. What makes this case unusual is that it is the first case in which a constitutional executive officer of the state government is put in this position of being questioned regarding her fitness for office. So it is in a sense a novel question in that it has never involved an executive officer of government, but there are cases in which judges have been brought before the legislature for impeachment.
In 2 separate rulings, the Supreme Court upheld 2 death penalties and reversed another. By a 6-3 margin, the justices upheld the sentence of John Evans III, convicted in April of 1977 with the murder of a Mobile pawn shop operator. Since that murder was committed in the act of a robbery, the conviction fell into the category of 14 crimes, which are punishable by death under the newest death penalty law. But the same sentence for Evans' partner, Wayne Ritter, was reversed under a complicated provision in the state criminal code. Both Ritter and Evans testified during their trial in Mobile that they would accept nothing other than the death sentence.
If you give me life, or if I got life imprisonment, I could get out in 10, 15 years. And when I got out, I know where everybody on the jury lives, and I wouldn't appreciate being in prison for 10 or 15 years, so I think I would have to come after you.
I've been at it a long time, and if you don't come back with a death sentence, which is the only other thing I think you can come out with, I'm going to get out and I'm going to do it again. There's not any question whatsoever. I have no intention whatsoever of ever reforming in any way.
The third conviction ruled on today was for Jerry Wayne Jacobs, who, along with a brother and a nephew, was convicted of killing a Coleman man in July of 1976. Jacob had appealed his death sentence, charging that the state law violated the 8th and 14th Amendments by failing to ensure the death penalty would not be imposed in an arbitrary or capricious manner without due process. But his conviction was upheld today on a 7-2 margin, with the Chief Justice concurring only in part.
In a dissenting opinion in the Jacobs case, Chief Justice C.C. Torbert said he agreed with the majority of the court that Alabama's capital sentencing statute is constitutionally sound. In particular, Judge Torbert cited the automatic appeals rule, which states that before any convicted murderer can be convicted in the state, his case must first go before the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals and the state Supreme Court. Although that rule could be challenged in the future, it doesn't appear that will happen in the Ritter and Evans cases. From the Judicial Building, this is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News, reporting.
In particular, Governor Wallace's direction that the Reserve Army...
5 and has served in positions of increasing responsibility in Korea at Fort McClellan, Alabama, by a committee headed by Command Sergeant Major of the fort. Center in school as a Hawk electromechanical repair course instructor, for which work he's won the Missile Division. Married to the former Kum Cha-Yi with one child, David Rowland, age 7. Ike Holt.
Auburn University Athlete of the Year, Willie Smith, is at this moment the fastest man in the world at 400 meters. Through a combination of hard work, intelligence, and a quiet confidence in his potential, this young Auburn University senior from New York is moving steadily toward the dream of every runner, to be the best in the world at what he does.
I think I can. I think I have the potential to do that. I have the fastest time so far this year, and I don't know, a lot of things could crop up. You know, the quarter's a funny event. You know, one day, you know, one guy can win it, one day the next guy can win it. It's all according. You have to feel into the race because it's just so long and grueling that, you know, it's not like 100 where you just, I don't know, I have to feel it. And in any given day, you know, like, you can just, I don't know, one part of your race you won't run as well as the other part, and you just can't get it all together. Fortunately, I've been lucky enough to just put it all together, and it's just been working that way this year. And I think I found the key to running it, and I'm just going to keep on doing it that way as long as it keeps me on top.
On top is where Willie Smith has been. 2 NCAA indoor championships. Only a last-minute injury kept him from the outdoor title last year. He owns 5 Southeastern Conference titles with both the indoor and outdoor records at 400 meters. All this in 2 short years since he returned from the Montreal Olympics, convinced his best chance of making that 1980 Olympic team was in the 400 meters.
His best time this year is 44.73, which is the fastest time in the world right now. There is nobody in the country that has been under 45 besides him. He is really the standout quarter miler in the world at this time.
I believe the Olympics, to me, that was the best thing that could happen to me in 1976, was to go there as an alternate, not compete, and just, you know, be a bystander and just watch everything that went on. And I believe when 1980 comes, you know, hopefully if I make the Olympic team, I'll be able to correct a lot of the mistakes that I saw in 76 and, you know, just sort of apply it to my own overall personal program.
Is it important to get a look at those world-class guys and to know how good they are so that you can set your standards?
Yes, because being like an amateur, you rely more heavily on the veterans to give you pointers, tips, or, you know, experiences in other countries that they've gone through. You know, they've been there, they know the ropes, and if they're willing to share them with you, you know, I'm willing to listen.
Willie is no different. He will run the 200 to help us to get points. He runs on that 400 relay. I think he would long jump, but I don't think he'd go very far. No, he's a good team man. At the meeting, he said, I hope everybody does well because we've been working all as a team trying to win the conference. Yeah, he's a good team man, and he can do so many things. Yeah, we hate to see him go. He's been kidding me all year. Coach, this was my last Drake relays, or Coach, this was my last dual meet. Now he says it's my last conference meet. But I said, we got one more, we got that NCAA. No, I'll hate to see him go.
Willie Smith, SEC champion, national champion, Olympian. Auburn University's Athlete of the Year.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Willie Smith. I'm sorry I was unable to attend the awards banquet this evening, but unfortunately, our national championships were scheduled at the same time as the banquet. I would love to be there, but this competition is very important to me and important to Auburn University. I also would like to congratulate all the other athletes in the SEC who won their respective Athlete of the Year for their school. Thank you.
As far as we're concerned, the bottom line, the key language is the fact that the audit concludes that Alabama Power Company is an effectively managed company.
The utility looked good in most of the 24 categories the audit firm explored. On the relationship between Alabama Power and its parent corporation, the Southern Company, the report said the cost of services provided by related companies are effectively controlled, and the methods used in formulating the costs of such services are equitable. The report also mentioned that the company's affiliation with the Southern Systems Power Pool is beneficial to its customers. On customer service, Alabama Power was found to be providing a relatively high level of service at a cost which is less than the average expended per customer by other utilities. There was some criticism of fuel procurement, which in the past, according to the audit firm, has not been as well controlled as other significant activities of the company. But officials say they're welcoming such criticism and will follow as many of the firm's recommendations as possible.
In some cases, some of the recommendations have quite a bit of dollars associated with them, so we have to weigh the cost of implementing those against the benefits to be derived. But for the most part, we will implement all of their recommendations and have a number of them already completed.
To utility executives, probably the most pleasing part of the audit was Price Waterhouse's judgment on the company's rate-making policies. In the auditor's words, "It is our judgment that the principal factors which have caused rates to increase so rapidly lie beyond the company's sphere of control." And the auditors believe that in past rate cases, particularly one in 1976, Alabama Power should have gotten more than they did. Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News.
There's been some improvement, certainly, in terms of the number of minorities and women that have jobs with the city and some better jobs. But Montgomery as a whole didn't come off, compared to the average, looking very well at all. In fact, especially in the top officials category, almost 95% of the jobs are held by white males. And in the 15 other cities that were surveyed, at least as far as the average came out, there were more minorities and women in those jobs than there were in Montgomery.
I'm a great deal more interested in pleasing Judge Johnson than I am the American Civil Liberties Union, because we're under a federal court order since 1972 in the city of Montgomery to not discriminate against blacks, and we submit every 6 months to the federal court a breakdown of all employees of the city of Montgomery. And so far, these have been accepted by the court. We don't have any black employees, we don't have any white employees, we don't have any male or female employees in the city. They're all city employees and they're treated equally. I will promote on merit, and I will discharge for lack of merit without regard to race, color, creed, or sex.
But I think by going to high schools and going to places where minorities and women are known to congregate in women's organizations, in black churches, for example, in high schools, that you can find those people. And you have to make a real effort to do that.
Well, we operate under a personnel board, and they have a set of rules and regulations. And I will do my best every time to pick the person on the basis of their qualifications and merit, and I couldn't care less what color they are or whether they're male or female if they can do the job.
The university and its administration were tried in the newspapers, on the television, and on radio. The language of the judge seemed to evidence this.
We can't say and we cannot believe that Judge Johnson lives in a vacuum. So what appeared on news, what appeared in the paper, can definitely have some influence and impact in terms of how he rendered his decision.
We ask ourselves the question, would Judge Johnson have used that kind of language in rendering judgment against a white president of a college?
We recently had a poll taken, the same pollster that took our poll in 1970. It showed I could not win the governor's race. Took it for me. It was paid for by me. And this poll showed that I could win, and that's an actual fact. Now, many candidates take polls just to satisfy themselves, but this poll was taken to satisfy me as to what the facts were, and the facts show that I could win the Senate race very handily.
Bonnie Ray Sutton, a former associate of State Treasurer Melba Till Allen, has been on the stand since the hearing began today. Sutton is a friend of another Melba Till Allen associate, Vance Dyer, who allegedly suggested that state funds be used to make a certain bank loan, but it is not clear if any plan materialized or any money changed hands. An apparent significant document surfaced at today's hearing, identified as Sand Incorporated, signed in Point Aquarius last July as a means of purchasing a recreation area in North Alabama. Sand Incorporated stands for the names Bonnie Sutton, Melba Till Allen, Mrs. Louise Nolan, and Vance Dyer, apparently the key figures in this trial. Sutton spent the morning answering questions about his employment patterns in Florida, Mobile, Alabama, and in Illinois. He has denied being part of any scheme to get money out of the state of Alabama through the Treasurer's office. Mrs. Allen faces a two-count indictment that alleges that she, as state treasurer, deposited state funds in a bank in Geneva, Alabama, in exchange for credit or loans. The trial is in its second day. It's expected to be a lengthy one. Reporting from the Montgomery County Courthouse, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Critical is the word used to describe the condition of approximately 200 acres of soybean, corn, grain sorghum, and wheat that suffered severe damage during recent flooding at the Red Eagle Honor Farm. Heavy rains caused the water to cover the crops May 9th through May 13th, leaving approximately 35 acres of soybean, 96 acres of corn, and an undetermined amount of grain sorghum completely destroyed. Red Eagle is bound by the Tallapoosa, Coosa, and Alabama rivers and generally expects some flood damage each year, but not until November after the planting season is over. Assistant County Agent Bob Hanks said most Montgomery farmers suffered similar damage.
Well, I think that the losses is going to total about $200,000 in the county, and this will include the replanting and the use of the herbicides and the fertilizer that was lost during the floods.
What happened to the crops?
Janet, you can see from this corn here, the soil has got down into the whirl of the corn, and I don't think it's going to recover. I don't see how it possibly can, because the top of the corn is bent over, and it's going to sour down, and then this corn is going to die. We see a lot of corn in this field that's already dead, and some of it's already washed completely out of the ground and broken off. So I think this is the main thing that's happened to the corn crop. And on the soybean crops, it's water just gotten up over them and caused them to, the leaves to shed off of the soybean some, and turn color, so they've already drowned out some too.
Is there any way that the crops can recover?
No, I don't see how these crops are going to recover. I think this is a total loss, 100% loss on these. But on some of the crops, I think what we're going to have to do is just sort of wait. We're going to have to play a waiting game on it to see what's going to happen.
If weather conditions remain favorable, Red Eagle is expected to produce 100 to 135 bushels of corn per acre, 51 bushels of wheat per acre, and about 32 bushels of soybean per acre, in spite of recent crop losses.
We had 325 acres of corn planted. At this time, we know of 96 acres completely lost. There's about 75 acres I can't get to at this time to check it to see how much damage I got to it. And approximately about 50 acres of beans is completely lost due to flood. And 210 acres of grain sorghum. And at this time, we don't know how much damage we'll have to it, don't know how much will recover, but we know that approximately 2/3 of it's completely gone. We know that. We can see that.
When will you be able to give a exact number or exact date?
It'll probably be, we'll have to get the maps and come around and check it and see just how much is completely gone and how much is damaged, how much is cut out of the fields and like that. That's the only way. We'll just have to take the maps and check it.
Hank said the wet weather may create a few problems, such as seedling disease, but overall soil moisture will remain adequate. Janet May, WSFA TV News.
I suppose, David, it's very difficult to say exactly why. There may have been 1,000 subconscious reasons, but I just decided that I did not want to go to Washington, did not want to live there, and therefore I made the decision not to run.
We have heard that increasingly you have some hearing problems that perhaps are worsening. How great a consideration is your physical condition? How great a consideration to decide not to go to Washington?
Well, my physical condition, of course, is all right in the sense of my health. I have nothing wrong with my health other than paralysis. But of course, it is a little bit more tedious for me, so I just decided not to do it. That doesn't mean that someone who's a paraplegic couldn't go to Washington. It just means that I didn't want to go. Maybe I got to thinking about being around all the number of pointed head guideline writers in Washington might run me crazy.
Governor, was there another aspect to it? There also was a recent poll that indicated that if you were to run statewide, you could only get about 35% of the vote.
Well, those are polls that were taken for the benefit of other candidates. We recently had a poll taken, the same pollster that took our poll in 1970. It showed I could not win the governor's race. Took it for me. It was paid for by me. And this poll showed that I could win, and that's an actual fact. Now, many candidates take polls just to satisfy themselves, but this poll was taken to satisfy me as to what the facts were, and the facts show that I could win the Senate race very handily.
We regret that whatever just cause, if any, the coalition had or has, they were used to really try the Craig case against Alabama State University in the arena of public opinion. The university and its administration were tried in the newspapers, on the television, and on radio. The language of the judge seemed to evidence this. We dare not question the legal mind of a great judge. We leave that to the lawyers. Judge Johnson more so than any judge we can think of, has helped to turn this country around in matters of civil rights. But we regret sovereignly to say that the language of the judge used in reference to Dr. Levi Watkins as president of the university was unnecessary, unexcusable, and unbecoming to the Judge Johnson we have known from the most trying days of his life. We ask ourselves the question, would Judge Johnson have used that kind of language in rendering judgment against a white president of a college?
Ivy, the court is in the process of striking a jury at present, which began about an hour and a half ago. Mrs. Allen was to stand trial on 2 charges today. The first indictment alleging that Mrs. Allen solicited or accepted the use of an airplane from a Florida financier who was involved in banking in Alabama has been continued, and that will be heard at a later date. Mrs. Allen, however, faces a 2-count indictment that she allegedly deposited state funds in a bank in Geneva, Alabama, in exchange for credit and loans. It's the 2-count indictment that will be heard first. Her attorneys have pleaded not guilty to all counts. A sequence of events so far today. Mrs. Allen arrived here at the courthouse at 9:05, and she had no comment for the media who greeted her at the door. She entered the judge's chamber and then entered the courtroom at around 9:25. It was at that time that District Attorney Jimmy Evans asked for a conference with Circuit Judge Perry Hooper. That conference lasted about 30 minutes. That returned Mrs. Allen to the courtroom. Then at 10:40 this morning, Judge Hooper read the indictment, and the process began of striking a 12-member jury. Reporting live from the county courthouse here in Montgomery, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
The study was prepared by the Road Information Program, or TRIP for short. It was presented at the request of the Alabama Road Builders Association. Its major premise is that due to the increasing cost of repairs to the state's roads and highways, more than $505 million could be saved if they were resurfaced and repaired now. Already, the report says, there are almost 2,500 miles of roads that are too deteriorated to be simply resurfaced. The present cost estimate for these repairs is $101 million. The same work 4 years ago would have only cost $31 million. The spokesman for the Road Builders Association, Bill Hughes, explains how these savings could be implemented now.
Well, it would be done by going ahead and initiating a maintenance program, funding it properly, starting it now rather than putting it off any longer.
What about budget problems that are associated with that type of upkeep?
Well, the budget problems are there. It's such in any program. We have inflation that's involved in it, and we have a funding problem as to where the money is going to come from. And that's a legislative problem that we hope our legislature will act on.
But the maintenance engineer for the State Highway Department says it seems unlikely the goals proposed in the TRIP report could be realized in the near future.
Well, right now what we're trying to do is hold our own, which we are not doing. In fact, our roads are deteriorating faster than we're repairing them right now under the present budget.
But you don't know how much can be done right now?
Well, of course, we're doing all that we have the money for.
Kane said some improvements may be coming sooner than expected, however, since the government has just implemented a program applying federal funds for state road repairs. But how much money will be available remains to be decided. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News reporting.
Hey, go find out how we stand on a shot put. Oh, okay, bye. You got about 2 more laps. You can check the shot over there. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know if it's still going.
I think the shot's over.
Shot's over?
Here goes Bumper.
laps to go now. It's the 3 Bs and then the rest of the race. Baker, Bromberg, and who is that, Mel? Brown.
That's Brown. That's Barry Brown, a real fine steeplechaser from the Athletic Attic. And Baker is in the lead, and every time somebody comes up, he picks it up a little bit, and it's a real kind of a strategic kind of race. Now here comes Brown again, and Baker's pushing out a little harder. Now, Bromberg came up a couple of laps ago, and Baker sprinted out, and Bromberg got back, so now he's back out of the race. It looks like it's going to be Baker and Brown all the way.
4 laps to go. The 2-mile run.
Now this will come down to see who got the fastest kick. And it looks like Baker's trying to get away from Brown a little bit.
Coliseum time here is 8:38.7 by Stanions of Western Kentucky last year. Check that, year before last.